incredibly masterful. It's about a young woman dealing with grief on the day of her mother's funeral to the point where it verges on madness, as she's found talking to herself at a bar. The writing was great, the performances were incredible, the cinematography worked so well to tell the story seamlessly while keeping the viewer completely captivated the whole time. I got chills when the lead started telling the story of how she was making breakfast and her mom smashed the plates into her face for doing something wrong, and she couldn't tell what was ketchup and what was blood. So that was a moment that really stuck out to me. Um, this piece says so much about abuse without it being too on the nose. I just thought it was overall such an incredible job and a really captivating piece of art.
I think from the first minute of her just kind of like falling over the place and not having it together was so hilarious. And I liked how it was that, and then it's completely just juxtaposed in a few minutes when you find out that she's there for a funeral, but not just any funeral, her own mother's funeral. I really liked the use of kind of this alter ego of herself, like basically the devil on her shoulder, as she's trying to write this eulogy. It's so obvious that this is hard for her. And at first it's funny, but then you realize that it's actually quite frustrating for her. And she's having to kind of process her own trauma from how her mother treated her and how she's not even really sure if she's upset that her mother is gone. She's not even really sure how she feels about the whole situation. And I think it was a very great take on what grief does to us, especially when things are potentially unresolved, when you didn't have the best relationship with that person. And now, you know, you're at the funeral and you have to write the eulogy, and just kind of seeing how she's been thrust into this position that she probably doesn't know how to deal with. And so I really liked how it was at the bar, how she just kept drinking and not being able to process it. And I think the actress did a very good job at, at portraying that.
The themes were universal about dealing with the death of a parent that was toxic, dealing with the death of someone that you're supposed to feel heartbroken about, but who treated you so badly that you don't know how to grieve them, which I thought was really interesting. I thought it was really cool that she was talking to herself in the bar. Slowly, I learned this while watching. Gradually, it dawned on me that she was, in fact, talking to herself and not her sister, as I originally assumed. I liked that we had the bartender character witnessing all of these crazy antics from her and her sister, and realizing later that it's just her that he's seeing doing all these things was even better. And I loved the ending of this film, how we saw the generational healing in action with her own little family, and seeing that she has a good relationship with her daughter. I thought that was really cool to see how she's healing from her mother and how she decides to skip the funeral, telling her husband that she grieved in her own way, which I thought was really cool. Yeah, and the fact that we have her talking to herself in the bar and seeing all of her hateful thoughts, insecurities, her worst fears and thoughts coming from herself, and having her heal in that way, sort of getting it all out there and realizing that she doesn't need to go to the funeral, and that she has her life and her healing process already there, and she doesn't need to grieve her.
It's deep in the sense that it forces the character to explore themselves uh, and deal with kind of scary elements of, I think anyone who's been in an abusive situation is always afraid of one day uh, becoming their abuser. And you can kind of see that in the sense that whenever that one part of her says something she doesn't like, her first instinct is to go and strike it like her mother would strike her. And that part of her's first instinct is to flinch. You can also look at that from a different lens of maybe it's not her becoming more like her mother, but maybe that's her abusing herself, fighting herself, the part of her that wants to stand up for herself. And it's essentially a more physical visualization of self-deprecation.
Immediately, as a viewer, we see who she is and understands her as a character. I love how the film tackles the issues of alcoholism and how it affects us as people and what we do during these hard times. I also love how it provides us with a glimpse of her reality and how she struggles, especially with the other woman, especially when the other woman appears alongside her. I enjoyed the development of the protagonist as she starts with struggling to accept and struggling at first. And as the film progresses, she accepts who she is, but also allows herself to heal and move forward from her current state. It's a great film to showcase that we are not alone and that help can be sought out.
The opening is a great introduction to this character. It feels like she is speaking to her insecurities throughout this, who have materialized in the form of a frenemy, who lashes out at her, calls her names as she struggles to write this obituary for her mother. Um, she has a complex relationship with her mother, that's very clear, and it gives hints of that throughout, that her mother had sort of an abusive aspect to her, but also it starts to allude the fact that this was a result of some mental health instability with her mother. Um, this whole process in preparation for this funeral is making her face all this unhealed trauma with her mother. Um, and even as she's dealing with the funeral goers at the bar, she's having to deal with, how the world views her through what her mother has done to her. Um, at some point, she accepts that her mother has had mental health issues and she faces her own potential mental health issues, which is internally her fear is that she will end up being her mother towards her own daughter. She's fearful what kind of mother she will become. So the ending monologue was very beautiful. Great performances all around, actually. The moment at the end where she notices the mother and daughter walking by, maybe they remind her of herself as a child, is a really nice touch.
It's nicely written, and all the acting was very good, especially the lead actress. She did a terrific job. And, good score, nicely directed, nicely paced, nicely edited. So all around, a very nice piece. And, I'd wonder, if we could see more adventures of Stella, if this perhaps has become a feature or a series, and, see what else she has to deal with in life.